I am a drummer, and this morning a little girl came to my door because she heard me playing drums yesterday. She wanted an autograph because she liked it a lot. Reddit. What are some of the cutest, most unexpected things you have seen or been a part of? When I was about 7 months pregnant, a little girl who was around 2 years old came up to me and hugged my stomach. She then laid her head on it and whispered, "It's okay baby, we will play together when you're big." It was adorable, but I had no clue who this little girl was, so I was a little uncomfortable. When I was 3 years old, I saw a group of Arabs with turbans at the airport when we were picking up my dad. I immediately broke off from my mom and ran to them. I asked the one dressed in white if he was Aladdin. You don't see groups of Arabs in turbans just hanging around airports these days. I'm a cashier at a restaurant, and while checking a family out, their 3-year-old little girl came behind my counter. She slowly moved closer to me with this big girl smile on her face until she was right in front of me, then reached out and hugged me. It was the cutest thing ever. I've had this happen as a cashier too. It's always so disarming and adorable, though the parents usually are really embarrassed, apologetic. I mean, it's not a great idea to run around hugging random strangers as a kid after all. Last night I spent the night at my buddy's house. His brother has a long-haired dachshund named Chips. I was laying on the couch watching the Olympics, and Chips jumps up on the couch with me. He licked my face, playfully barked at me, did the adorable slight head turn, and then burrowed under my blanket and laid down on my chest. He wasn't very comfortable there, so he crawled down to my legs, turned himself around, and rested his head on my thigh like a pillow. He gave me a little goodnight kiss on my leg, and then fell asleep. I almost cried, it was so adorable. This is how I saw the second sentence, his brother was long-haired and was named Chips. This made the story extremely weird and awkward. I still prefer this version. I work in customer service and also happen to have very thick, tightly curled, unruly hair that I've always been somewhat self-conscious about. In fact, I kept it extremely short for most of my life and have only recently started to grow it out. Well, this guy comes up to my register with his daughter, who can't be more than 3 or 4. As I'm running the transaction and making small talk with the father, the little girl suddenly pipes up, "Miss, your hair is beautiful." I stood there for the rest of my shift with the biggest, goofiest smile pasted on my face. It still makes me happy to think about a few months later. So cute. Females with thick, curly, unruly hair unite. I cut my hair about 2 inches above my shoulder and shaved the right side of my head about a year ago, and I've kept it short and shaved. I recently decided to grow it out as well. Volunteered at an agency in the inner city for my high school senior service project years ago that helped poor children go to school and provided a place for kids with family problems as well as the necessities. A little girl there liked me a lot and always wanted me to hold her hand and push her on the swing and help her with do everything. This went on for weeks. She eventually found out that I was not staying at the agency and that I had to return to my school within the next couple days. She cried and hugged me, and only later on did I find out that she didn't have a father or any males in her family. The teachers and workers there said that before I spent time there she had been very quiet and never showed any emotion to anyone. I like to think that I made a difference. Now I'm sad. There was an air show in town many years ago when I was a kid. We were given color booklets that showed all of the planes and exhibits present at the event. Me and my buddy thought it would be cool to get autographs from all of the airmen that were at the show that day. The look on those guys and girls' faces when we wanted their autograph was great. I was playing goal and pickup hockey at a local rink. I went past the main ice, where open skate was finishing up, and into the locker rooms, changed into full gear, and the jersey I'd brought was a local NHL team jersey. When I stepped out, fully suited, it was into a crowd from a birthday party for what had to be a 10-year-old. Every kid in that crowd yelled horror and freaked out. One kid held the door onto the ice open for me, and the look on his face was complete reverence. It was awesome. TLDR. Kids thought I was a professional hockey player. Crap was flipped. As a hockey player, this is probably the coolest story I've ever seen on Reddit. I was walking through my local mall wearing my Batman shirt. There was a mother with her young daughter and son. As I walked by, The little girl asks her mom in the cutest voice ever, "Mommy, is that Batman?" The mom laughed and I smiled at the little girl with a huge grin on my face. It made my day. I was once at a grocery store shopping and this adorable little girl walked past me and told her mom, "Look at that girl." And her mom was obviously worried something mean would come out of her mouth since I looked like crap. The little girl then said, "She is so beautiful." Made my day. TLDR. Little girl tells me I'm beautiful. I spend the rest of the day strutting around like a model. I volunteered at this art class with a bunch of 5-6-year-old kids. There was a French girl that just moved from France a couple of weeks ago, so I asked her to say some French sayings to me. The best part was this little boy came running up to me exclaiming, "I speak Mexican. Let me show you." His Mexican was very good. I was camping in Rocky Mountain National Park some years ago. One night, after dark but before quiet hours, I broke out my guitar and played for about 20 minutes. The next morning I woke up early to take a walk and write in my trip journal. As I was writing, I had the feeling that someone was watching me. I looked up and saw a little girl of about 6 standing a couple feet away from me. It was the little girl from the campsite next to mine and she was staring at me intently. I said, "Hi." She said, "I heard you playing your guitar last night." "Yeah," I said. She replied, in a very matter-of-fact manner, "What do you think you are? Some sort of songwriter?" It was the cutest thing I had ever heard and so completely disarming. I sat there thinking, she has a good point. What do I think I am? Burn. Around Valentine's Day this year at the grocery store where I work, a little girl aged about 7-8 was holding something in her hand but staying close to her dad and being very shy. Her dad encourages her and says go on, and he tells me she wanted to give me something. She hands me a little Valentine's card with Disney princesses on it and a message that said I was special. I was walking at the park one day when I saw some little girl being teased by some boys. Her back was facing me, so I stood behind her and gave my most intimidating stance. Granted, I look 20ish at 14, but the little boys were pretty scared and ran off. When the girl turned around, I just gave her a smile and a pat on the head, then went home. Next day I go to the park and I see her and who I think is her mom. She then walked up to me and told her mom I was her guardian angel. I just smiled, nodded and went home feeling good. Smart thinking. You were totally at guardian angel status. I used to babysit this then 9-year-old girl. She could be difficult, but we developed a really great relationship with each other, of course as babysitter kid goes. One day she rings the doorbell at my house and hands me a folder with the title, "My Hero, Lil Gaga." She had written her school paper on how I was her hero. I still read it at times. It's still the sweetest, most unexpected thing that's happened to me. I'm a cashier at your local mega store. It's a particularly busy Friday, and this nice older lady is checking out with a completely full cart. With her is this little girl, probably about 4 or 5, who is being a complete shat. She keeps telling the woman that she better buy her groceries, or she's going to beat her up. The woman tells her to please behave and be nice so they can go home and have ice cream. The little girl tells her she's going to have ice cream whether the woman likes it or not. At this point, I'm just freaking shocked, but obviously, I can't say anything. The woman keeps apologizing for the little girl's actions and saying she is so embarrassed. I assure her it's okay and ask the little girl if she'd like to help me bag. I'm thinking that this will help keep her occupied, so she's not bored, and further embarrassing this poor woman by continuing to walk all over her. This method works for about 5 minutes. Then the girl goes back around and decides she's going to start taking money out of the woman's purse. Again, super embarrassed by her lack of control over this monster, the woman starts to tear up and tells me that she's her aunt, and the little girl's mother had passed away a few months prior. She told me since then, she had started acting out for attention. It was her coping mechanism. All of a sudden, I felt like a pile of crap for thinking poorly of this little girl and judging this woman for poor parenting. They're about to leave, and the little girl turns to me and says, "Thank you for letting me bag." I smile big, tell her, "You're welcome, sweetie," and turn around to start the next transaction. A few seconds later, I feel tiny arms wrap around my legs. She had come back, of her own accord, to give me a hug. I immediately start bawling. Like, Full on. Streaming down face, almost sobbing, tears. I look at the next customer in line, and she's crying just as much as I. She came around the register to give me a huge hug. The little girl just wanted attention, and because I asked her to help me, she felt the need to reach out and be close to me. Little kids can be so dang incredible sometimes. TL. DR. Butthole little girl verbally abuses aunt in my line at work. Turns out, her mom was dead. She ends up hugging me, makes me bawl at the register. Excuse my poor verb tenses. I'm really tired, and doing this from mobile, so it's more difficult than it should be to edit. It's not really a certain moment, but every time my brother sees one of my new projects, he stares for a while and then says I would love to be an artist like you when I grow up. Melts my heart every time. Finally, a reliable cure for warts. My little 4-year-old cousin stuffing pillows under his shirt because he wanted to be just like his portly Uncle Gene, whom he idolized. He came out in his self-made fat suit, so proud, patting his belly and enthusiastically announcing who he was emulating. So cute. So embarrassing for the uncle. I work for a non-profit organization centered around giving underprivileged children opportunities to explore art and to spend time with positive role models. Last week, one of my kids was an adorable 10-year-old girl who was a little bit chubby. Her sisters were both stick skinny, and she told me about how they made fun of her. I gave her a whole spiel about confidence and believing in yourself. I said that it didn't matter what other people thought, as long as she was happy with herself. She got quiet, and we went about our day. Later on, all of the kids got to decorate some t-shirts for tie-dye. When I went to look at her shirt, I saw that she had written, "I'm beautiful, deal with it." I cried when I saw that because it was such an amazing moment. I'll remember that forever. Good for you. Having worked with kids myself, I found that letting them know that they are amazing no matter what anyone else says can literally change their life. That little thing you did may have made a world of difference. Kudos. Keep it up. I was shopping with a friend once when a little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, came up to me holding her mother's hand. The girl was holding a pen in her free hand and the woman was holding a rolled up poster in the other. The woman said, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but my daughter is a big fan and wanted to ask you something." "Go on, sweetie, ask her." Confused as heck, I sort of knelt over and the girl whispered, "Can you sign my poster please, Ms. Celebrity?" I was so shocked I actually laughed for a sec, but then realized that this cute little girl thought I was celebrity. I looked at the mom who was already unrolling the poster she was holding, and now she had a puzzled, doubtful look. She asked me, "You're not celebrity?" When I shook my head, the mom looked really embarrassed and started apologizing. The little girl looked crestfallen, so I smiled and said something about how cool that celebrity was and how I wish I was her. She replied, "All serious now, don't wish that. You're just as cool as she is." One of the cutest things anyone has ever said to me. Oh, and it turned out that celebrity was in town that weekend playing a concert, and I guess I look enough like her that the mom got sort of excited and jumped to the conclusion that I was her, so she bought the poster and searched for me for like 10 minutes after before catching up. One bonus cool thing, she thought the friend I was with, a big, well-built guy with some self-confidence issues, was my bodyguard because he looks so intimidating. That gave him a huge ego boost. D. I love Celebrity. Her new song is so good. In 7th grade, my best friend and I got all dressed up to see Beauty and the Beast at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. Full gowns, gloves, rhinestone headbands, 1950s Broadway regalia. A little girl stopped us and asked if we were real princess and asked me to sign her program. I signed it Princess K with a swirly heart. Thanks for making a little kid's day. Can you make it out to eBay? But seriously, you must kick some butt. Link me as to some examples of your work. Damn it. I once helped a little girl find her parents when she got lost in a big department store. I think she was waiting outside the changing room. They actually thanked me for it and she gave me a little hug. As an adult male, this was a welcome surprise to what you'd normally think would happen. Haha, I actually don't have any up-to-date records at this moment, and am going to be busy the next week or so because I'm playing at a wedding and going on vacation after that. Sorry to disappoint. Maybe if you are subscribed to our drums you will see me post in it one day. As a fellow drummer, I am jealous. That's adorable. The most I've had is a couple girls come up after a show and basically just hit on me ferociously, while I awkwardly tried to push them off on a friend and my girlfriend looked on and laughed at the whole situation. She eventually came up and showed her ownership of me. Of course now that I'm single this never happens, but that's how these things go. You got +1 karma for showing that you respect your girlfriend. I was at the local mall half a year ago. Note, I live in an ugly, backwards as heck and boring city. Crocs are staple shoes there, and I decided to dress up a little. I had a new white dress on, and a flowered headband in my hair. Dressed like this, I was wandering around and browsing shops, and so many people gave me weird looks, and after the third tween with denim panties instead of shorts whispered you freak face. I was feeling so down about myself that I decided to just walk home without buying anything. But as I'm heading towards the exit I see this teeny toddler girl sprint towards me, falling out of her little pink gumboots on the way. She's so frantic. Her mother catches her, and I'm just standing there wondering what's going on when they led her away and she starts crying. But mama, it's a real fairy. TLDR, I'm a fairy motherfuckers. You have class and style. Frick those guys. When I was around 8, an old lady, who looked about 65, saw me shoveling the driveway for my mom who was currently in the hospital, but she didn't know that, obviously. And so the old lady gave my $50 and said it makes me so happy when I see people helping their parents. About a year ago, I was the cashier at Walmart. I was working a shorty, or the quick registers, and it was nearing my final break time. So here comes my beautiful co-worker whom I casually hit on in a friendly manner. She's still brand new and I'm her only friend, so she knows it's all jest. She comes up and stands behind my register as I finish checking out this lady and her little boy. As I finish, this little boy disappears and I feel some arms wrap around me. Thinking it's my friend and relief, I tell her, hey haha, don't you feel we should do dinner first or something before we get fi? At which point I see her to my right while someone is still hugging me. She starts laughing at me and the little boy I was just checking was behind me hugging me. I'm a tall guy and have a bit of a problem with receiving hugs I don't consent to. His mom freaked out and he said marshmallow, company-wide nickname, and was on my name badge as well. You have a great day. You're a nice and funny guy. I started laughing and ruffled his hair. I saw them occasionally while I worked there for the next 7 months. Every time I wouldn't recognize him because he was going through growth spurts. Every single time, he would run up to me and hug me and say, Mom, it's Marshmallow. Dang, kids are cute. Best thing was his mom was cool with it because she knew I was a nice guy. I have 2 stories. D1. I was a part of a young women's group called the International Order of the Rainbow for Girls, part of the Masonic Order. When I was younger, it was required of us to wear formal modest dresses, think like floor-length prom style, for all meetings including the big conventions. Me and the other girls were at this hotel getting ready to leave for the big group session at one of these conventions. Long dresses, hair and makeup done. The officers in our group were wearing tiaras and hoop skirts, the kind that you would think a stereotypical princess would wear. We were standing in the hall, waiting for our adult advisors to walk with us to the venue when this little girl and her mom appeared. They had obviously had just come back from the hotel pool. The little girl spots us and stops in her tracks. Mommy, look at all the princesses. We laughed a little and waved at her. She did the shy little kid thing and hid behind her mom's legs. We passed by them and I heard the little girl say, they are really pretty. They made. 2. Me and my 2 good friends in college made historical Disney princess gowns for our final costume project, which was a fashion show followed by a small party. We had little girls who attended the show ask for our autographs and take pictures with us. We also wore the costumes again for Halloween so the costume shop tech's daughter could take a picture with us and give us a picture she drew. It was a 8x11 piece of paper covered in glitter princess stickers. It stayed up on our locker for the rest of college. D. Mine's along the same lines. My brother, one of our friends, and I used to play rock music in his garage. My brother plays the guitar, I play bass, and our friend plays the drums. We never played any live shows or anything, we just did it for fun. One day we were in the garage and after one of our songs we heard clapping coming from outside. We opened the door to see a bunch of grad school kids on their bikes who had apparently heard us while they were riding by. I was digging a hole at the beach with my younger brother and my fiance. The hole was probably 3 feet deep and really big, with a big wall around it. This little girl comes up and stands there staring at it for a while, then looks at me and goes, "Can you lift me?" And the hole came up to like her neck. She was so small in comparison. So I did, and we built a little sandcastle, and then she left with a relative. So cute. A few years ago before a school dance, a group of my friends went out to a restaurant. They had a little self-serve ice cream bar for when you were done with dinner, so all of us, in suits and ties and dresses and heels, walked over to get ice cream. I had a dress on that was pretty form-fitting and really unforgiving material, and I felt like you could see my stomach pooch. That is, little area right below belly button. You all know what I'm talking about. I was a little insecure, and I'm naturally a bit self-conscious, so I wasn't super confident. This little maybe 5-year-old girl was standing in line for ice cream, and she looked up at me like she was looking at a Disney princess. Her eyes were all big and wide and she said in this tiny incredulous voice, "You are the most beautiful person of all." I didn't even know what to say. I just got all melty and said, "No ma'am, I think you are." She looked awestruck that I had called her beautiful. She got her ice cream and practically skipped away, and not from a self-conscious point, just a fact thing. I'm not the prettiest person. I'm a solid 7 maybe 6, around there. I don't do well with kids at all. I'm sure they can smell the fear on me. I've never understood how to interact with a kid. It was really nice to get a confidence boost and to finally have a positive child interaction all in one. If a 5-year-old thinks you're pretty, then you're pretty. They're unforgiving monsters. Utterly adorable, but still monsters. Source: considerably younger siblings. I worked at a theme park where I issued seasons passes. A family with a little girl came in to buy passes and she asked me if her stuffed bunny could have won so he could come back to the park too. So I took the bunny's picture and printed her off a pass for Bunny, her last name. I hope my boss came across that entry if they ever checked the system. On the 13th of July, my birthday 20 now, a few friends and I went to the zoo. I could tell it was going to be a good day, because this is my first birthday away from my family. Stayed out the night before to go out. About 5 minutes after we got inside, a mum and her daughter were walking past us and the daughter just veered off towards me. I thought she was going to collapse, so I sort of stealth braced myself to catch her, but instead she hugged my leg. I just stood there, dumbfounded, and my 2 female friends just halt. Her mum laughed and I asked if I could keep her and it was funny. But then when the mum tried to take her away she started to cry. And I mean, she was bawling. She really didn't want to let go of this 6 feet 4 inches guy's leg. It was adorable. Then, the very same day, literally about 10 minutes later, we were ogling the Siberian tiger as it was pacing up and down past the glass screen which I was leaning up against when it stood up and banged the glass where I was standing. But it looked like it was trying to hug me, and that was cute too. It wasn't trying to eat me. Our birthday was on Friday the 13th. I wanted a knife. Mum said no. I was watching Shark Tale with my friend and his niece. His niece was explaining all the characters, and when she was talking about the girl fish she said she's supposed to be really pretty but not as pretty as you. It was the most adorable compliment ever. I taught English for 2 years to K-12 students in the Japanese public school system. At some point, I decided that it was my mission to teach every single one of my 1,300 students how to do the robot. The day I taught my kindergartners that magnificent dance will forever be imprinted in my mind. I am now thoroughly convinced that there is nothing more adorable in the world than a class full of animated 5-year-old Japanese children shamelessly doing the robot and repeating Roboto Disu, Roboto Disu, Roboto Disu, Roboto. Use to win 10 internets, an upvote, my respects, and a tag as the Mr. Roboto. I went go-karting with my ex-boyfriend, our married friends, and their 4-year-old daughter. Their daughter adores her dad and always wants him to drive. But that day she said she wanted to ride with me. I told her that I drove slower than her dad and we probably wouldn't win. But she insisted on riding with me anyway. We came in second place. A long time ago, circa 3rd grade or something, For Halloween I dressed up as the Blue Power Ranger. So I was walking around, doing my thing, and suddenly some 4-year-old comes up to me and says, "I love you, Blue Power Ranger." As my summer job I am delivering furniture and large appliances. We were delivering a rather hefty washing machine to a house and the little girl that lived there was adorable. She followed us around, fascinated that these monstrous appliances were actually movable and not attached to the house. At one point we had to drag the washer over a linoleum floor. The rubber feet on the washer caused it to shudder across the floor, shaking it quite a bit. At that moment the little girl looked at us with a smile and said that made me bounce. Me and my associate are rather large and gruff looking fridge carrying men and were both overpowered by the cuteness of this girl. I worked at a school in Scotland not too long ago. While I was there I noticed that one of the primary school kids was wearing the flower of cancer on her hair. I asked her if she has any family members who have cancer. She said no. Why did you ask? I told her that my mum was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer and I really appreciate her support in my mum's fight. She reacted by giving me the flower, hugging me, and she said the flower and the hug is for your mum. She then ran off to join her friends. This past Valentine's Day, I didn't have a Valentine. One of my friends knew this and drove all the way to my apartment, a good 30-ish minutes from where he was, and proceeded to leave me a few roses and some candy at my doorstep. I woke up the next morning to the flowers on my doorstep and was elated. IDK. It was super sweet coming from him and it made me happy. Drummer as well here. It's funny how once you start playing everyone nearby knows. My neighbors kept commenting on my progress, which was great. One little story is playing at a party late one night. A band had played and left all this old gear up and so me and a bunch of mates who could play started jamming whilst drunk. Neighbor came over. Thought it was the usually shut the frick up, instead he said, "Can you guys turn that the frick up?" He loved it. I totally understand this cause whenever I am at a party and there is a drum set, I'm always on it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.